Hello, and welcome to the Sleepless Scientist, a calm corner of the universe where your mind can slow down and curiosity drifts into a gentle lullaby. Tonight, we'll explore one of the strangest truths of existence. The universe is expanding everywhere, yet it has no true center. Before we begin, if you enjoy these quiet cosmic journeys, I'd be grateful if you take a moment to like the video and subscribe. It helps this small community of night thinkers grow. And when you have a moment, leave a comment sharing where in the world you're listening from and what time it is there. It's always fascinating to see how far these whispers of the universe travel. So, settle in, dim the lights, let the soft hum of the room wrap around you, and allow your thoughts to drift as we step together into the vast, centerless expanse of the cosmos. And if your mind wanders along the way, don't worry, it's part of the journey. We'll still be here unfolding the story in quiet motion. Let's start with a very strange question. If something is expanding, growing outward, becoming larger, where is it expanding from? Your mind might immediately imagine a balloon filling with air stretching outward from the middle, or perhaps a firework bursting in the sky, its colourful sparks flying out from a central explosion. These are intuitive examples, familiar, centred, and they work well when we're dealing with things here on Earth. But when it comes to the universe itself, the space between galaxies, the fabric of reality stretching in all directions, this intuition quietly falls apart. You see, the universe is expanding. That part is true, and we've known it for over a century now. Galaxies are moving away from us. The further they are, the faster they're receding. It's not just a poetic image. It's been measured, calculated, confirmed. The light from distant galaxies is stretched into redder wavelengths, like the deepening colour of a sunset. We call this redshift. And it's not happening because galaxies are racing through space like cars on a highway. It's something far stranger than that. It's space itself that's expanding. The universe isn't filled with galaxies flying away through an empty vacuum. It's the vacuum itself, the very scaffolding of space and time that's stretching. Quietly, gently, relentlessly. And here's the part that keeps both physicists and poets awake at night. This expansion has no centre. There's no middle, no origin point in space from which everything is moving outward. There's no cosmic capital city, no universal ground zero. The universe is growing larger, yes, but it's not growing outward from a place. It's simply growing everywhere, all at once. And this idea, though mathematically elegant, can feel deeply unsettling. We're so used to stories with beginnings, with central locations, with reference points, even when we drift off to sleep. Our dreams tend to have somewhere we're starting from, a house, a forest, a memory. So it's understandable that we instinctively look for a centre when we're told the universe is getting bigger. We want to point to something, to find the middle of it all. But space doesn't seem to work that way. Imagine for a moment that you're lying on your back on a warm summer evening. The grass beneath you is soft, the sky above filled with stars. You close your eyes for a moment, and when you open them again, something strange has happened. The stars have all moved just slightly outward, away from you. You blink, and it happens again. Every star, every galaxy, drifting gently farther from your position. From your point of view, you're at the centre of this motion. Everything is receding. Everything is expanding away from you. But now imagine someone else, on a distant world under their own sky, also lying in the grass, also watching the stars. And from their view, the exact same thing is happening. Galaxies moving away, the universe expanding, and they too feel like they're at the centre. How can both be true? This is where the story begins to shift from astronomy into something closer to poetry, because both observers are correct. Each is at the centre of their observable universe, and yet neither is at the centre of the universe. In fact, there is no such center to be found. Every point in space, when observed, sees the same general pattern: galaxies receding, light stretching, space itself expanding. But there is no privileged position, no favored direction. The universe has no middle. It's not a riddle. It's not a paradox. It's simply the nature of how space works when it expands uniformly. The equations tell us this, yes. But so do the images from deep space telescopes. So do the maps of background radiation. So does every careful measurement we've made. And yet it still feels strange, doesn't it? You might be wondering, if there's no center, how can we even say it's expanding? Expanding compared to what? That's a fair question, and one will unravel slowly as the night unfolds. For now, let this strangeness rest softly in your thoughts, like a feather placed in your palm, light, unsettling, beautiful, a universe with no center, a cosmos growing larger in every direction, from every place for every observer, no fixed ground, no throne of the gods, just galaxies drifting apart in a vast borderless silence. And yet, here you are, in one little corner of this ever-stretching cloth, breathing, listening, watching light that has travelled for billions of years. You are not at the centre, and still, somehow, it all reaches you. You've likely heard this one before, perhaps in a classroom, a science video, or an old documentary playing softly in the background. Someone brings out a balloon, uninflated and wrinkled like a forgotten idea. They take a marker and draw a few dots scattered across its surface. Not just anywhere, only on the surface like tiny towns on the skin of a world. Then, slowly, they begin to inflate it. And as the balloon grows, you see something curious happen. Every dot moves away from every other dot. None of them stand still. None of them stays particularly special. And there's no dot you could point to and say, that's the one the expansion is coming from. This image, the balloon analogy, is often used to help people visualize how the universe can expand without a center. But like all metaphors, it's not perfect. After all, the balloon is expanding into the space around it. It's a three-dimensional object growing in a third spatial dimension. The surface of the balloon, though, is only two-dimensional. That's the important part. If you imagine living on that surface, if you were one of those little dots, you would have no idea there was an outside, no sense that you were expanding into anything at all. All you'd know is that your neighbours, wherever they were, seemed to be getting farther away. And the more distant they were to begin with, the faster they appeared to recede. Now, instead of a balloon, picture a loaf of raisin bread in the oven. The dough is rising, warming, swelling in all directions. The raisins are just along for the ride. They don't crawl through the dough. They don't leap or fly or roll. The dough between them simply expands, and as it does, each raisin finds that the others are drifting farther and farther away. From any raisin's perspective, all the others are retreating. There's no single raisin that the expansion is centered around. No favored berry. They're all part of the same process, equally adrift in doughy space. The point of these analogies isn't to be clever. It's to help us see past the deeply rooted assumptions we carry about movement, direction, and location. When you're told the universe is expanding, your mind instinctively reaches for motion. Something must be going somewhere. But in the case of the cosmos, the reality is softer, more subtle. It's not that galaxies are flying through space. It's that space itself, the stage, the canvas, the dough, is stretching, quietly, evenly, without noise or edge. And what's most curious of all, no matter where you are in the universe, you'd observe the same thing. You could travel 1 billion light years in any direction, land on a distant planet, and set up a telescope there, and you'd still see the same gentle redshifting of galaxies. You'd still see them receding in all directions. You'd still be, by all measurements, at the centre of your observable universe. But that doesn't mean you're in the middle of everything. It only means you're at the center of your own perspective, your own light bubble, just as everyone else is. This illusion of centrality isn't just a scientific quirk, it's deeply human. We build our stories from a single viewpoint, our own. You wake up in your bed, not someone else's. You walk in your shoes, carry your thoughts, see the world through the narrow flickering window of your own senses. And so, when told the universe is expanding, it feels natural, almost necessary to ask, from where? But the cosmos doesn't seem to be playing by those rules. Instead, it offers something far stranger and perhaps more humbling, a reality in which no point is privileged, no place is primary, a universe where the laws remain the same from every angle, every galaxy, every distant corner of space. It's a kind of cosmic democracy, a structure without a throne. Of course, metaphors can only carry us so far. The balloon, for all its elegance, still relies on something external, the air pushing it outward, the room it's in, the third dimension it grows into. But the actual universe doesn't expand into anything. Space doesn't sit inside a larger space. When cosmologists talk about the expansion of the universe, they mean that distances between things are increasing, not because they're moving through a pre-existing emptiness, but because the very definition of distance, the metric itself, is changing. That's why the phrase "center of the universe" becomes so slippery. Because in this kind of expansion, there isn't one. There can't be one. Every part of the universe participates equally in the growth of space. There's no cosmic anchor, no grand platform from which everything is pushed outward. And yet within this centerless sprawl, something quietly beautiful emerges. Perspective. Each galaxy, each cluster, each being with eyes and thoughts and instruments finds themselves surrounded by the universe. Not above it, not beneath it, within it, enfolded in the same stretching fabric, looking out through the same telescope of light and time. So when you stare up at the night sky and feel, even for a moment, that all those stars are drifting away from you, that you're somehow in the middle of something large and profound, you're not exactly wrong. It's just that everyone else feels that way too, and they're not wrong either. The middle, it seems, is a matter of where you're standing, not in some mathematical or territorial sense, but in the sense of presence, of awareness, of being alive in this particular corner of space and time. And perhaps that's enough. Perhaps the universe doesn't need a singular center, because it has billions, trillions, each one a fleeting moment of consciousness watching the stars, wondering what it all means. Tonight, you are one of them. There's a certain comfort in edges. Boundaries give us shape, context, orientation. A page has margins, a room has walls, even the sky, though endless to the eye, feels contained by the horizon. And yet, when we talk about the universe, we're forced to abandon this craving for borders. Because one of the strangest truths we've come to understand is that the universe has no edge, no outer wall, no surrounding shell. It simply is. You might imagine the cosmos as a great floating sphere, suspended in some even greater nothingness, a glowing orb of galaxies and gas drifting in an ocean of black. But that picture is misleading. It imposes structure where there is none. The universe isn't expanding into space. It's not moving through a larger room. There's nothing outside it, because space itself, time itself, is what the universe is made of. There's no wrapping paper, no external hallway, just the stretching of the space within. And yet, there's still structure, not in the sense of walls or fences, but in the geometry of how space behaves. This is where things get beautifully abstract, and where the language of everyday experience begins to buckle. Because space can be flat, curved like a sphere, or curved like a saddle. It can be infinite, or finite, yet without boundaries. It can, in a sense, loop back on itself. Not like a racetrack, but more subtly, more like a whisper that circles back into your ear. To make sense of this, imagine for a moment that you're a tiny being, living on the surface of a vast featureless sphere. You have no concept of up or down. The third dimension is invisible to you. You only know the two directions you can move, forward and sideways. To you, this surface is your entire world, and no matter how far you travel, you never find a cliff, never bump into an edge. If you keep walking long enough, you eventually end up where you started, not because you turned around, but because space itself curved beneath your feet. This kind of geometry, a finite space with no boundary, is a familiar trick in mathematics, and it's one of the serious possibilities for the shape of our universe. Not that the universe is necessarily spherical, but that it could be finite in volume, yet unbounded in direction. There's no edge you can fall off, no outer crust. You could travel forever and never find a border, only arrive back at the place you began, if the curvature allowed it. What's more, our universe might also be infinite, endlessly stretching in all directions without fold or return. Observational data suggests it's very nearly flat, perhaps precisely so. But flat doesn't mean boring. Even a flat universe can be rich with structure. Galaxies, filaments, clusters, all woven into a web of matter and dark energy, stretched across the vastness like frost on a window. So, what does this mean for the idea of a center? Well, it dissolves it. Because in both scenarios, whether the universe is infinite and flat or curved and finite, there's no special location where everything began. No throne in the middle, no glowing core. Expansion happens everywhere, and that everywhere is all there is. Every point, every patch of sky, every speck of intergalactic dust is part of the whole. There is no outside, only inside. It's a bit like trying to find the centre of the surface of the Earth. You might pick a location, perhaps your hometown or a famous city, or even the point where some ancient compass rose was once drawn. But ultimately it's arbitrary. Every place is surrounded by other places. There is no privileged point on a sphere's surface that deserves to be called the centre. The globe spins gently beneath the stars, balanced but unanchored. This realization that there's no cosmic address more central than another wasn't easy to accept. For most of human history, we thought we were the centre. The sun revolved around us, the stars circled overhead, and the universe itself seemed tailored to our perspective. Even as that idea crumbled under the weight of evidence, thanks to Copernicus, Galileo, and generations of astronomers, it lingered in our imaginations. There's something deeply human about wanting to be the middle of things, but the truth turns out to be more generous than we expected. Because if there is no centre, then everywhere can be a place of significance. If no point is privileged, then all points have the same opportunity to create, to reflect, to wonder. You're not central because the universe revolves around you, but because it includes you. You're not special because space grows outward from your position, but because space grows with you in it. There's a quiet freedom in this, to know that you are part of a whole that has no edges, to realize that your experience of reality, brief, local, personal, is still woven into the same vast fabric as every star, every galaxy, every whisper of background radiation. You're not standing apart from the universe, observing from a balcony. You're inside it, entangled with it, one of its patterns, briefly aware of itself. So when you look out at the night sky, don't search for the middle, there isn't one. Instead, find comfort in the idea that the universe doesn't need a centre to hold. It holds itself together through balance, through expansion, through the quiet laws of geometry that whisper beneath the stars. And as you drift further into this gentle story, remember, the universe has no edge and no outside. It simply is, everywhere, all at once, expanding not from a point, but from the very nature of its being. Like breath without lungs, like a sea with no shore, like a thought that has no beginning and no need for one. When you hear the phrase the Big Bang, it's easy to picture something dramatic, an enormous explosion in the dark sending matter flying in all directions, a sudden burst of fire and light, as if the universe were lit like a fuse. After all, the word bang doesn't exactly suggest calmness or subtlety. It brings to mind noise, violence, force, something that starts in one place and spreads outward, like a firework or a bomb. But in reality, what scientists call the Big Bang was something far quieter, stranger, and vastly more beautiful. The Big Bang wasn't a bang in the way we normally understand the term. It wasn't an explosion in space. It was the rapid expansion of space itself. And it didn't begin from a single spot, hurling galaxies outward like debris from a blast. Instead, it happened everywhere at once, because there was no somewhere for it to begin, no empty room for the universe to explode into. There was only the beginning of space and time, the unfolding of the fabric that would eventually hold everything. Think of it this way: if you had existed in that first moment, and you couldn't have, because nothing like us could survive in such heat and density, but if you could imagine being there, you wouldn't have seen an explosion happening somewhere else. You wouldn't have watched galaxies shooting past you like shrapnel. You would have been part of the expansion itself. Every atom, every particle, every ripple of early energy expanding right alongside space. There was no outside, there was no over there, just an everywhere that was growing. It's a difficult image to hold in the mind because we're used to thinking in terms of location. When something starts, it starts from a place. When something moves, it moves through something else. But the universe doesn't behave like a stone thrown through the air. It behaves like the air itself stretching, and everything in it stretching along with it. This idea began to take shape in the 1920s, when Edwin Hubble, working with a telescope at Mount Wilson Observatory, noticed something extraordinary. As he looked at galaxies far beyond our own, he saw their light shifting toward the red end of the spectrum. This redshift wasn't just a quirk of light, it was a message, a clue. The further away a galaxy was, the more its light had been stretched, and the more it had been stretched, the faster it seemed to be receding from us. At first, this seemed to suggest that Earth was somehow at the centre, that everything was flying away from us. But astronomers quickly realised that this couldn't be true. If you were on another galaxy, any other galaxy, you'd see the same pattern, everything moving away. No matter where you stood, the universe would appear to be expanding from your position, which meant that the expansion wasn't coming from anywhere. It was happening through everything. That discovery changed our understanding of the cosmos forever. It told us that the universe wasn't static, wasn't frozen in time. It was dynamic, alive, evolving. And most incredibly, it had a beginning. If you rewind that expansion, galaxy by galaxy, light by light, you eventually arrive at a moment when the universe was unimaginably small, dense, hot, not a dot in space, but a condition, a state of being so extreme and so unified that everything we now know was once compressed into a single, blazing simplicity. Not a speck surrounded by blackness, but a hole without a wear. As the universe expanded, it cooled. As it cooled, matter formed. Light began to move freely. Particles began to combine, to settle, to clump. The earliest whispers of structure. And from that moment on, the universe has never stopped expanding. It's not slowing down. It's still unfolding, still stretching, still growing. Not like a balloon with a leak, but like a quiet tide rising in every direction. And here's something even more beautiful. As space expands, light stretches with it. Photons, those tiny packets of light, don't just race across the cosmos untouched. They are stretched out like threads being pulled. A wave that was once sharp and short becomes long and slow. What began as searing radiation cools into microwave background glow. The light from the first atoms formed is still travelling now, washing over us gently, almost invisibly. The oldest light in the universe, not gone, just softened. That's why we can detect the cosmic microwave background. It's not a leftover signal from a distant corner, it's the afterglow of everywhere. The light that filled the early universe, now stretched thin by time and distance, still arriving, still singing its quiet, equal song from all directions. So when you think of the Big Bang, try not to imagine a detonation. Don't picture it as a scene in the sky you could have watched from far away. It was not something that happened in one place while the rest of the cosmos looked on. It was the beginning of the very possibility of place, the rising of the stage itself, the opening of the curtain, not just for stars and galaxies, but for distance, for direction, for time. The Big Bang was less like a cannon shot and more like a breath, a deep invisible inhale, a swelling of the invisible threads that would someday bind atoms into stars and stars into galaxies and galaxies into the kind of world where someone might build a telescope, or look up at the sky from a quiet field, or listen to a soft voice talk about the shape of everything. It wasn't loud, it wasn't violent, it didn't push us away from some great centre, it brought us into being calmly and universally. A moment not of destruction, but of becoming. And you, yes, you, are a part of that becoming, still unfolding, still moving outward with space itself. You're not outside of the Big Bang looking back on it, you are a continuation of it, a quiet ripple in the same expansion that began everywhere, all at once. Now that we've unwrapped the Big Bang, not as a bang at all, but as an unfolding, a swelling of space itself, you might be left with another quiet question drifting in the background. What does it actually mean for space to expand? Not just in theory, or in numbers, but in the way you might feel it if you could somehow ride along the stretching. What would it be like, really, to live inside a fabric that is constantly widening? To begin with, we need to revisit a thought that's both simple and deeply counterintuitive. Galaxies are not flying away from each other like shrapnel or runners in a race. They're not pushing through a pre-existing emptiness. Instead, they are being carried apart by the expansion of the very thing that holds them. They are like patterns stitched into a piece of cloth that is slowly being pulled. The patterns themselves don't stretch, the fabric between them does. One way to imagine this is to picture yourself sitting on a raft in the middle of a perfectly calm lake. There's no current, no wind, nothing stirring the water. Now imagine that the lake itself starts to expand, not by spilling over the edges, but by every drop of water gently moving away from every other drop. You and your raft drift slowly apart from nearby floating leaves, not because you're paddling, and not because they're swimming away, but because the lake beneath all of you is getting bigger. That's what's happening to galaxies. They're not travelling through space, they're being distanced by the stretching of space. In scientific terms, this is known as metric expansion, a quiet but profound idea. The metric of space is a way of measuring distance, of saying how far apart two things are. When we say that the universe is expanding, what we're really saying is that this measurement itself is changing. The ruler we use to define distance is growing. Space is not just a container, it's something with its own properties, its own behaviour, and one of those behaviours is expansion. This kind of movement is different from almost everything else in our daily experience. Normally, when something moves, it goes from one place to another. A car travels down a road. A bird glides across the sky. A person walks through a field. But when space expands, it's the space between things that increases, not because the things are moving on their own, but because the underlying stage is unfolding beneath them. This distinction is subtle, but it changes everything. It explains why galaxies can appear to recede from us faster than the speed of light, without breaking any cosmic speed limits. Because they're not moving through space at superluminal speeds. Instead, the space between us and them is growing so rapidly that the total distance increases faster than light could travel in the same time. No rule is broken. It's just that the road is lengthening faster than any traveller can move across it. To visualise this, imagine you've drawn a grid on a piece of clear plastic. Place 2 ants on different intersections of the grid. Now slowly stretch the plastic in all directions. The ants don't crawl, they stay exactly where they are, but the distance between them grows. If they could only observe each other, they might think the other is moving away. But in truth, it's the plastic, the space itself, that's changing. This idea, while abstract, helps explain so many of the strange observations we see when we look out into the deep sky. Redshifted galaxies, cosmic background radiation, the uniformity of expansion across billions of light years. All of it makes sense when we stop imagining space as a static backdrop and start seeing it as a dynamic participant. There's something quietly humbling about this. It means the universe isn't expanding into something. It's not stretching to fill a bigger box. It is the box. And the box itself is growing, not from any centre and not toward any edge, but in every direction, at every point equally. No border, no outer wall. Just the silent, steady broadening of reality. It also means that, from any vantage point, whether you're on Earth, or in a distant galaxy, or orbiting a star on the far side of the cosmos, you would see the same general pattern. Galaxies receding, light stretching, space slowly lengthening its own dimensions. There's no privileged seat, no single observer who sees the real picture. Everyone sees their own version of the same process, and each version is equally true. You might wonder then, why we don't feel this expansion in our everyday lives. If space is stretching, why doesn't your coffee drift away from your spoon? Why don't cities drift apart like slow-moving continents? The answer lies in gravity, and in the other forces that hold things together. On small scales, the pull of gravity, the strength of chemical bonds, and the structure of matter all overpower the gentle expansion of space. Galaxies stay together. Solar systems remain bound. Even your body, made of atoms tightly held by electromagnetic forces, resists the stretching. Expansion only becomes noticeable on scales where these local forces are weak or non-existent. Between galaxies, across the void. So in a way, you are both expanding and not expanding. The space between distant clusters of galaxies is growing, but the space between your hands, that stays the same thanks to the invisible threads that hold your atoms, your cells, your world intact. And yet, in the grand picture, you are still part of this expansion. You ride with it. You're not being pushed or pulled. You're gently carried by the fabric itself. Like a passenger on an escalator, you may feel still, but you're in motion all the same. There's something deeply peaceful about that. To know that you don't need to run or struggle to participate in the grand movement of the cosmos. You're already included. The expansion doesn't pass you by. It moves with you, around you, through you, like a soft breath beneath everything. When we talk about the universe expanding, it's easy to imagine things drifting apart. Galaxies growing more distant, the night sky becoming colder, dimmer, lonelier. And if we're not careful, this picture becomes a metaphor for separation. As if the deeper truth of the cosmos is that everything is moving away from everything else, slowly, inevitably, until there's nothing left but space and silence. But that image, while dramatic, misses something essential. Because expansion, in its truest and quietest form, doesn't just scatter, it enables, it builds, it opens the way for connection, complexity, and the delicate architecture of everything you see and everything you are. To understand this, we have to go back to the earliest fractions of a second after the Big Bang. At that time, the universe wasn't filled with stars or planets or anything you could touch or see. It was dense, hot, a storm of particles and energy so intense that the very concept of structure hadn't yet emerged. In those first moments, everything was too close, too energetic, too uniform for anything meaningful to form. There were no gaps, no places to settle, no calm spaces where atoms could cool and combine. But then, space began to stretch, and as it did, the universe began to cool, not because it lost energy in the way a fire burns out, but because that energy was now spread across a growing canvas. The same amount of heat now diluted across a greater expanse. Think of a hot ember dropped into a vast lake. The energy doesn't disappear, but its spread softens, quiets. And in that softening, something extraordinary becomes possible. As the universe cooled, the first atoms formed. Hydrogen, helium, simple, light elements that floated freely through space, no longer trapped in the chaos of plasma. A few 100,000 years later, these atoms allowed light to travel freely for the first time. That light, the oldest in existence, is still reaching us today as the faint microwave glow that whispers from every direction. But more importantly, those early atoms were now free to drift, to clump, to fall into the gentle gravity of themselves. Over time, gravity sculpted these clouds into stars. Stars gathered into galaxies. Galaxies formed webs and clusters. The universe took shape, not because everything stayed still, but because everything had room to move. This is the quiet miracle of expansion. It gave the universe time and space to breathe. It didn't scatter the ingredients of reality. It provided the conditions for them to become something more. Without expansion, there would be no galaxies, no stars, no chemistry, no Earth, no story. Without expansion, everything would still be too hot, too close, too simple. It is the very act of space stretching that allows for depth, distance, and diversity. And in that sense, expansion isn't a cause of loneliness. It's the reason connection is possible at all. You can think of it like baking bread. If the dough never rises, the ingredients never mix properly. There's no room for air, no texture, no structure. Just a dense, lifeless lump. But as the dough warms and expands, tiny pockets form. The yeast breathes, the structure builds, the loaf takes shape. Not despite the rising, but because of it. In much the same way, the universe needed to stretch to become what it is now. Each star is like a bubble of that cosmic dough, born from the settling of hydrogen in the spacious calm left behind by expansion. Each planet is a ripple in that settling. Each tree, each stone, each heartbeat is a byproduct of the room that was made by the stretching of space. And you, yes you, are a continuation of that process. Your body, made of atoms that were forged in ancient stars, is held together by forces that only make sense in a universe that cooled, that paused, that allowed matter to gather and become complex. You are not a separate thing floating in the void. You are a local arrangement of the cosmos, a structure within a structure, a ripple that became aware of itself. When you walk through a forest or sit quietly with a friend or breathe under the stars, you're not stepping outside of the universe. You're existing within the conditions that cosmic expansion made possible. The very space between you and the tree, between you and another person, between you and the galaxy shimmering faintly above, is not emptiness. It is the space where connection happens, where the whisper of gravity reaches across light years, where photons travel, where warmth and memory and meaning unfold. We often fear the vastness of space, the distances between things, the idea of a universe growing larger than we can grasp. But what if we stopped seeing that distance as a wall and started seeing it as a bridge? Every star you see tonight is not a stranger, but a participant in the same expansion that made your hands, your eyes, your mind. Every beam of light that touches your skin has been stretched by the same motion that gave rise to galaxies. Every silence between sounds, every breath between words, every pause in your thoughts is a reminder that space is not absence, it is possibility. So when you hear that the universe is expanding, don't picture it unraveling like a frayed thread. Picture it like a canvas being stretched, not to erase the painting, but to make room for new strokes, new colours, new meaning. You're not lost in the vastness. You're part of how it speaks. You're not drifting alone. You're being carried gently, like a leaf on a soft tide, made possible by an expansion that didn't push things away, but opened the way for them to come together. And if that feels comforting, that's because it is. When you look up at the night sky, it's easy to imagine that you're looking outward, into space, into distance, into the vast and unknowable stretch of the cosmos. But you're also doing something quieter, something stranger. You're looking backward, not just in distance, but in time. Every star you see, every galaxy, every pale smear of light is not how it looks now, but how it looked when its light began travelling toward you. Because light takes time to move, and even though it moves fast, faster than anything else in the universe, it does not move instantly. So, when you look at a star 100 light years away, you're seeing light that left that star 100 years ago, and the farther away something is, the further back in time you're looking. This turns the sky into something unexpectedly personal, not just a ceiling or a canvas, but a sphere, your sphere, stitched together by all the light that has reached you so far. You could call it your observable universe. It's the bubble of reality that light has had time to bring to you since the moment the universe began. It's not a telescope limitation or a flaw in our tools. It's a boundary written by the speed of light and the passage of time. And here's where it gets beautifully strange. No matter where you are in the universe, no matter which galaxy you call home, you're always at the centre of your own observable universe. That's not arrogance, it's geometry. You are the centre of the sphere of light that has reached you, just as someone else, far away, is the centre of their own sphere, their sky, their horizon of light. Everyone, everywhere, finds themselves in the middle of what they can see. So, in a very real sense, the universe is not one grand panorama that everyone sees the same way. It's a mosaic of overlapping bubbles, each centred on an observer, each a theatre where the past arrives in beams and pulses, revealing ancient scenes that no longer exist, but are still unfolding in the present moment. This idea can feel a little disorienting at first. We're used to the idea of a shared sky, of one cosmos, equally visible to all. But while the laws are the same, and the structure echoes from one galaxy to another, the view is not identical. Because no two observers are in the same place, no two light bubbles are exactly alike. And so, the cosmos wears a different face for everyone, each view a unique echo of time's long unfolding. It's tempting to think of this bubble as a kind of limitation, a fence around what you can know. But maybe it's more generous than that. Because what you're seeing isn't just the present, it's a museum of light, a personal archive of the cosmos sent directly to you, curated by distance, arranged by time. From the nearby stars that twinkle from just a few years ago, to galaxies whose light began its journey when Earth was still molten and silent, your sky is a layered sphere of memory. You're surrounded not by space, but by time, by messages that have been travelling undisturbed for billions of years, arriving just now to be seen, to be understood, to be folded gently into your moment. And here's something even more remarkable. The farther out you look, the younger the universe becomes. You're not just looking at faraway things, you're looking at earlier times, at galaxies as they were, at stars being born, at matter beginning to settle. The outer shell of your observable universe isn't just distant, it's ancient. It shows you what the universe looked like when it was young and bright and new. The deepest layer of this shell is called the cosmic microwave background, the soft afterglow of the Big Bang, stretched thin by time and distance into a gentle radio whisper. It's the farthest, oldest light you can see, not because there's nothing beyond it, but because light from beyond that time hasn't had a chance to reach you yet. It's still on its way, somewhere in the dark, somewhere in the slow fold of expansion. And so, when you stand outside at night and look up, what you're seeing isn't a snapshot, it's a symphony, a layering of cosmic history arriving in order, in sequence, each photon a page from a different chapter. Some lines were written yesterday, others have been flying for so long that the language of stars has changed around them. It's hard not to feel moved by this, because it means that you, right now, are the intersection of light and time. A moment of perception, shaped by the speed of light, the depth of space, and the quiet stretch of history. You're not just in the universe, you are a witness to its unfolding, a reader of its distant letters, a listener to its silent songs, and just as the light reaches you, so it will go on, passing you by, moving through and beyond, perhaps someday reaching someone else, another observer, another consciousness, another center of their own horizon. We're all threaded together by this exchange, not of voices but of vision. We don't share the same view, but we share the same process, the same light, the same fabric, the same story unfolding in different frames. So the next time you look up, remember, the sky is not above you, it's around you. It is a globe of memory, expanding with you, centered on your place in space and time. It is the past arriving at your eyes in real time. And in this moment, you are not outside the cosmos, observing from afar. You are part of its memory, a flicker of awareness inside its great unfolding sphere. You are the center of your own horizon, and that horizon, strange as it seems, is a gift made of light and time and wonder. There is a quiet kind of fairness in the way the universe reveals itself. Not loud, not dramatic, but woven deep into its structure. So deep, in fact, that for much of history we failed to notice it. We looked up at the stars and assumed they revolved around us. We imagined Earth as the grand center of everything, a cosmic throne for human experience. It took centuries and no small amount of humility to realize we were wrong. Not just about the planets, or the stars, or the sun, but about the very way the universe treats its inhabitants. Because the universe, it turns out, plays no favorites. Wherever you are, the night sky stretches out around you in the same way. Whatever galaxy you're in, you'll see the same general patterns of expansion, the same large-scale structure, the same distant echoes of early light. You might be on Earth, orbiting a yellow star in the Milky Way, or you might be floating on a world a billion light years from here, beneath a different sky, with different constellations, and yet, when you measure the background glow of the cosmos, when you listen for its quiet hum, you find the same signal, the same soft symmetry. It's called the cosmic microwave background, or CMB, a faint uniform radiation that comes from every direction in the sky. It's not a glow from a nearby galaxy or a signal from deep space. It's older than all of that. It's the afterglow of the universe itself, dating back to just a few 100,000 years after the Big Bang, when the cosmos cooled enough for atoms to form and light to travel freely. Before that moment, the universe was opaque, like a fog of plasma. After that moment, it became transparent, and the light that escaped then is still arriving now, stretched by billions of years of expansion, cooled into gentle microwaves. What makes the CMB so remarkable isn't just its age, it's its uniformity. No matter where you point your instruments, north, south, east, west, you get the same reading, the same temperature, the same quiet whisper of the past. To within just a few parts in 100,000, it's the same across the entire sky. And this sameness, this profound equality, tells us something extraordinary. It tells us that the universe doesn't have a center. It doesn't have an edge. It doesn't even have a preferred direction. Every point is in a sense just as valid as every other. The laws of physics don't bend around certain locations. They don't soften for special galaxies. They don't echo more loudly in some regions than others. This is what cosmologists call the cosmological principle, the idea that the universe on large scales is both homogeneous and isotropic. That means it's roughly the same everywhere, and it looks roughly the same in all directions. Not in the details, of course, not in the placement of each star or the curve of each nebula, but in the big picture, the grand pattern, the structure that stretches across billions of light years. And remarkably, this principle is held up under scrutiny. The more we've observed, the more we've found confirmation. No throne, no spotlight, just a vast shared silence. It's humbling. But it's also comforting, because it means we are not missing out on some grander view. We're not in a poor seat at the back of the theatre. We're not off to one side while the real show happens elsewhere. Wherever you are in the cosmos, you are in it. As much as any other point. As close to the edge as anything else, which is to say, not close at all. And this isn't just a poetic idea, it's measurable. The redshift of galaxies, the distribution of matter, the background radiation, all tell the same story. A universe that expands not from a centre, but everywhere. A cosmos where every observer, no matter how far apart, sees the same general behaviour. A universe that does not rise and fall around any particular presence, but carries all of its parts equally. It's a kind of democracy, written not in laws or votes, but in geometry and light. A cosmic fairness that says, you are here and so are they, and both of you matter. Not more, not less, just together. Sometimes people wonder if this equality means we're insignificant, if the absence of special status means the absence of meaning. But perhaps that's the wrong question. Perhaps the wonder lies not in being central, but in being included, not in being chosen, but in being possible. Because a universe that does not favour is a universe that welcomes, a universe where stars form everywhere, where chemistry arises freely, where complexity is not confined to sacred ground, where consciousness, fleeting and rare though it may be, can emerge wherever the conditions allow. And that includes here, that includes you. There's something deeply beautiful in the idea that the same rules that govern far-off galaxies also govern the cells in your body. That the same quiet balance that allows light to stretch and stars to shine also allows thoughts to form, dreams to stir, questions to rise. You're not under different laws. You're not an exception. You're a continuation. So the next time you feel small in the face of a vast, centerless universe, remember this. You are made of it. Not beside it. Not beneath it. Of it. Shaped by the same rules, held by the same threads. And while the cosmos may not have favourites, it does have you, your mind, your memories, your way of seeing. And in this way, the universe becomes many things, not just matter and space and time, but ways of being seen, each observer a centre, each viewpoint a version of the whole, each consciousness a way the cosmos learns to look back at itself. If the universe has a favourite, it doesn't show it. And maybe it doesn't need to, because it has you. There's a strange sort of truth in saying that you never really see the present. At least not when you look beyond your room, your window, your sky. The deeper you gaze into the cosmos, the further back in time you're seeing. Not metaphorically, not poetically, but literally. What your eyes receive when they study the stars is history dressed in light. And the farther you look, the older that history becomes. This happens because of something quietly persistent, the speed of light. Light, as fast as it is, still needs time to travel. It moves through space at nearly 300,000 kilometers per second, which is staggeringly fast by everyday standards. But the universe is large, unimaginably large. So even light has to make a long journey to bring the stories of distant places to your eyes. When you look at the moon, you see it not as it is now, but as it was about a second ago. The sun, about 8 minutes into the past. The next nearest star, Proxima Centauri, more than 4 years ago. Every layer of the sky is a layer of memory, a shell of the past still arriving. The night sky is not a flat painting, it's not even a dome. It's a layered onion of ancient light, with you at the centre, not of the universe, but of your own perceptual bubble. Each photon that enters your telescope or lands gently on your eye has been travelling, unbothered, through space for years, centuries, millennia, even billions of years. Some of those photons left their sources before the Earth had formed, before the Sun existed, before galaxies had fully spun themselves into spirals. In this way, every direction you look is a tunnel backward through time. You might think of the sky as a kind of museum, but one where the exhibits aren't still. They're moving, changing, even disappearing. But what you see are their portraits frozen in the moment they sent their light toward you. The galaxy you see tonight may have merged with another in the time it took its light to reach you. A star you admire for its brightness may have already collapsed into silence. But because its light is still on the way, it still exists for you, still sparkles in your sky. And what makes this even more hauntingly beautiful is that it's not limited to a few objects. It's true of everything. Every image we have of the universe is an image of its past. Every cosmic photograph, every telescope reading, every observation is a time capsule. When astronomers look through their instruments, they aren't just mapping space. They're peeling back the curtain of time, layer by layer, century by century. The farther they look, the younger the universe appears, not because their instruments are faulty, but because they are reaching closer and closer to the beginning. At the edge of visibility, we find not darkness, but the faint, uniform glow of the cosmic microwave background, the cooled remnant of the first light that could move freely through space. That light was released about 380,000 years after the Big Bang. It has been travelling ever since, stretched by expansion, softened by time. Beyond that light, there is no seeing. Not because there's nothing there, but because the universe was opaque before then, so hot and dense that photons couldn't travel without being scattered. What lies beyond that boundary is not hidden behind a wall, but behind a fog that has long since cleared. The light from that earlier time simply cannot reach us. Not yet, perhaps not ever. So in every direction, you are surrounded by the past. Not the abstract past, not history written in books, but the physical, visible past. Still unfolding in beams of light, still arriving at your eyes, your senses, your instruments. The universe is telling its story in slow motion, whispering across time. You don't just see what's far, you see what was, and the farther you look, the more ancient the vision. And here's a quiet thought. This doesn't just apply to galaxies or nebulae or the distant cosmic background. It applies in a much smaller way to everything. When you look at someone across the room, you see them as they were a fraction of a second ago. When you glance at a mountain, you see the light that left its peak milliseconds before. On human scales, these differences are so tiny that we don't notice. But they are there, embedded in the physics of our perception. You never quite see anything as it is, only as it was by the time its light reaches you. So your life, like your sky, is a field of memories in motion, a gentle flood of delayed information, arriving in order, but never truly now. This might sound unsettling at first, as if we are always slightly behind, always out of sync. But perhaps it's something softer than that. Perhaps it's a gift, that everything you see is offered with time stitched into it, that your gaze is not a spotlight but a time machine, that to look is to witness, not just location, but chronology. The stars are old, the galaxies are older, and the light in your room, bouncing off your walls and hands and pages, is already on its way somewhere else. carrying the image of your presence, faint and distant, into the next layer of time. In this way, the universe is not just space. It is memory. It is a weave of now and then, here and there, tightly bound by the speed of light and the stretch of expansion. And you, with your eyes and your thoughts and your brief span of awareness, are a small part of how that memory is seen. You're living inside a story that is still being delivered, still unfolding, still echoing forward, even as it reveals what came before. What you see isn't out there now. It was. And yet, you are seeing it now. In that paradox, a kind of beauty lives. In the beginning, there was no thought. There were no eyes to see, no minds to wonder, no voices to ask why. The early universe was silent. Not in the way we experience silence, which is the absence of noise, but in the truest sense, a place where the idea of awareness hadn't yet arrived. There were only particles, energy, space, and time. No watchers, no thoughts, no questions. And yet somehow from that simplicity something emerged. Over eons, the quiet scaffold of space began to fold and ripple. Gravity, gentle and tireless, began its work. Not as a hammer or a force of violence, but as a kind of slow sculptor, gathering matter, guiding it into shape, letting it rest and cool and settle into stars. Stars became cradles for planets. Planets, when conditions allowed, became homes for chemistry. And chemistry, given enough time, became something stranger than equations could predict. It became life. It's easy to think of the universe as indifferent to us. After all, it is vast, ancient, and filled with forces that would easily overwhelm a human body in an instant. But consider this. Life did not appear in spite of the universe's unfolding. It appeared because of it. Every step in the grand sequence of becoming, expansion, cooling, clustering, fusion, explosion, accretion, was part of the preparation. Not planned, perhaps, and certainly not predetermined, but possible, and that possibility is sacred. Without expansion, there would have been no cooling. Without cooling, no atoms could have survived. Without atoms, no stars. Without stars, no heavier elements. Without those elements, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, iron, there would be no you. No air to breathe, no molecules to weave thoughts together, no cells to carry them. So it's not just that the universe allowed for life, it's that life is one of the things the universe did when given time and space to try, and life, in its own quiet unfolding, didn't stop with replication or survival. It went further. Somewhere along the way, on a small wet planet orbiting a yellow star in a forgotten corner of an ordinary galaxy, life became aware. It began to notice, to reflect, to ask, what is this? Where am I? Why does it feel like I can see? That is the beginning of what we call consciousness, a ripple in the stillness, a flicker of light inside the long shadow of time. We don't know exactly when or how it started. We don't fully understand what consciousness is, not yet. But we do know this. It is made of the same materials as everything else. The same atoms that drifted in the early universe now fire and flicker in your brain. The same gravity that shaped stars now helps shape the folds of your mind, guiding blood, breath, balance. You're not made of something separate. You're not a ghost living inside a machine. You are the machine, and you are the ghost. The universe, in one of its countless arrangements, became capable of understanding. And that understanding, though fragile and fleeting, is as real as galaxies. The great paradox of consciousness is that it feels both central and peripheral. You're always at the heart of your experience, always the one who sees, feels, thinks, and yet, you know you are not the center of the universe. The stars do not orbit your mind. The galaxies do not whisper your name. But still, your awareness exists, and that existence is no less miraculous for being humble, because from silence, something began to listen. From stillness, something began to notice, and from a universe with no center, a mind emerged to ask where the center might be. Perhaps it helps to think of your mind not as a product of distance or location, but as an emergent property of connection. Your brain is not made from rare elements or impossible ingredients. It is made from carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, the leftovers of stars, the dust of exploded light. But arranged in just the right way, those elements give rise to something more. Memory, emotion, thought. You might call it magic, but it's more grounded than that. It is pattern, it is structure, it is the dance of molecules in just the right rhythm to perceive time, to hold an image, to form a sentence like this one, and to feel it echo somewhere deep inside you. And so we arrive at a quiet truth. You're not a stranger to the universe. You're not outside of it looking in. You're an expression of its patience, a late chapter in its long unfolding, a ripple in what once was silence. When you sit quietly and wonder, you're not just a person thinking. You're the universe reflecting. You're a part of the cosmos that has become aware enough to trace its own lineage, not just through ancestry, but through atoms, not just through biology, but through gravity, chemistry, and time. And that awareness, however brief or small or local it may seem, matters. Not because it lasts forever, not because it makes the stars shine differently, but because it is, because it happened, because the universe, once silent, now holds within it this tiny miracle, a mind that can ask where it came from. So let yourself feel that, not as a burden, not as a pressure to find meaning, but as a moment of recognition. You are a ripple in a vast ocean, but you are a ripple that can know, that can feel, that can ask, and that in itself is enough. There's a thought, gentle and profound, that echoes through both science and poetry. It's been spoken in observatories and whispered in quiet stargazing fields. It's the idea that you, with your mind and your memories, are not just living in the universe. You are how the universe sees itself. A fragment of stardust, briefly aware, trying to understand the whole. Carl Sagan once said it best. We are a way for the cosmos to know itself. And though the words are simple, the weight of them stretches across time and matter. Because if you trace everything back, your cells, your organs, your senses, you arrive not at something supernatural, but something natural in the truest sense. You find atoms forged in stars, elements born in supernovae, hydrogen that has existed since the beginning, drifting through time until it found itself folded into your bloodstream. From that hydrogen came water. From that water came life. From life, structure. And from structure, eventually, after millions of years and uncountable mistakes, came a brain. A complex system capable not just of reacting, but of remembering, imagining, and wondering. That brain became aware of the stars, and then, perhaps more astonishingly, aware that it was aware. It is a quiet miracle, and it didn't happen just once. All over the planet, in billions of minds, this awareness flickers into being, each one private, personal, and yet connected to the same great unfolding. You might think of yourself as separate from the stars. After all, you live here, on the ground, in the weather, surrounded by the smallness of daily life. But the truth is quieter and far more intimate. You're not made of different stuff. You're made of the same particles that light up the night sky. You're not below the cosmos. You are within it. You carry it. This is not a metaphor. The oxygen in your lungs, the calcium in your bones, the iron in your blood, all of it came from stars that died long ago. Stars that collapsed and exploded, scattering their contents across space. The atoms that make your hand were once scattered in nebulae. The carbon in your thoughts once floated between galaxies. So when you sit quietly and think, when you dream, or laugh, or feel the soft ache of memory, You're not just a person experiencing the universe. You're the universe experiencing itself briefly and delicately. It's not that you are the center of everything. It's that everything has folded into you. You are not above nature. You are what nature is doing in this place, at this moment. You are the product of physics and chemistry, yes, but also of time, chance, and pattern. You're a story told in molecules, arranged just so until something inside them turned inward and began to ask, "What am I?" In that asking, something extraordinary happens. The cosmos, which was once only expanding, only cooling, only clumping, becomes something more. It becomes capable of knowing, not just in abstract ways, but in feelings, in curiosity, in awe. And it's not just you. Every mind, every form of awareness, no matter how brief or isolated, becomes part of that process. A galaxy does not know it is spinning. A stone does not know it is falling. But you, just by being, are able to see, to wonder, to question. And that ability folds you back into the fabric of things, not as an outsider, not as a superior being, but as a thread, a shimmering, fragile thread in the great weave of everything. You might wonder what this means for meaning. If consciousness is a latecomer, a byproduct of physics, does it make it less important, less sacred? Perhaps not. Perhaps it makes it more beautiful. Because it wasn't guaranteed, it wasn't written, it emerged. It surprised the universe by happening. And now, here you are, thinking about where you came from, using a brain made of star stuff to imagine the stars. And what do you see? You see distance, light, pattern, silence. You see galaxies spinning, light shifting, space expanding. You see things so large and so slow that they make your life feel impossibly brief. But at the same time, you feel something still and central. That despite the scale, despite the randomness, you are here. That you do matter. That your mind, this fleeting thing, holds value. Not because of what it controls, but because of what it holds. And what it holds is wonder. You don't have to understand every equation. You don't have to solve the mysteries of time or consciousness. It is enough to be aware of the mystery, to hold it gently, to sit with it like a quiet companion. The cosmos is not asking you to be certain, only to be curious, only to notice, only to look. And when you look, remember this. You're not outside the process. You're not watching from a distance. You're a part of what is happening. Your thoughts are made of the same ingredients as the light that left a galaxy 10 billion years ago. Your wonder is a chemical reaction. But it is also a form of presence, a way that the universe has found to slow down and ask itself what it is. So, in the end, perhaps it's not so strange to say that the universe is conscious, not in the way that you are, not in thought or language, but in potential, and in you, in this small, quiet mind that potential has bloomed. You are a mirror briefly held up to the sky, a tiny lens through which something ancient is learning how to see, and that is enough. It's a strange and quiet fact that the universe has no center, no fixed point you could travel to, no middle ground where everything began and around which everything now turns. The expansion of space is not like fireworks bursting outward from one location. It is more like rising dough, swelling in every direction, not from the middle, but from within. And yet, even in such a centerless cosmos, you can't help but feel central, at least to your own experience. You are the one seeing, thinking, wondering. You are the one to whom all sights arrive, all thoughts occur, all questions rise. In your private world of consciousness, everything unfolds around you. You are, in a very personal sense, the center of your own universe. That might sound egocentric at first, but it's not. It's not about importance. It's about perspective. In the same way that the observable universe is centered around each observer, because light takes time to reach every point, you too are at the center of what you can see, feel, and know Your horizon is yours, your moment is yours. It doesn't mean other perspectives don't exist. It simply means that your awareness begins from here and moves outward. And maybe that's the quiet miracle of it, that in a universe without a preferred place, awareness can create one. Not a fixed location, but a fleeting one. A shifting point of view, shaped by a body, a brain, a breath. The center becomes not a place in space, but a state of being. When you sit quietly and pay attention to your surroundings, to your breath, to the feeling of time passing, you're not stepping outside of the cosmos. You're stepping into it. You're becoming fully present in the only center that has ever truly mattered, the one created by attention itself. And here is where consciousness shows its quiet power, not because it alters the stars or changes the laws of physics, but because it reorients the frame, because it says, "Here I am," and from this place I observe. Even if the universe doesn't revolve around you, your experience does. Even if you're not the heart of creation, you're the heart of this particular noticing. That may sound like a small thing, but it isn't. In fact, it may be one of the few truths that remains, even when everything else seems too big, too strange, too far away. You can't touch a galaxy. You can't see the edge of the universe. You can't wrap your mind fully around eternity. But you can be here. You can inhabit a moment. And in that moment, everything you know converges. Sight, sound, thought, memory, feeling. A center. Not in space, but in presence. There's a quiet shift in thinking that happens when you accept this. You stop trying to locate yourself on a grand map. You stop worrying about whether you are central or peripheral, and instead, you start to notice that centeredness is something you carry with you. Wherever you go, it goes too. Not as arrogance, not as certainty, but as simple fact. You're always in the middle of your own experience. That doesn't mean the world owes you anything. It doesn't mean your view is the only one. But it does mean that your perspective is valid. It is real. It is a part of the universe's unfolding story. And when you think about it, this truth is not limited to humans. Any creature that sees, that senses, that reacts, even in the simplest ways, has a kind of center, a place where perception converges, a world built not from space alone, but from point of view, from presence. In this way, consciousness becomes a kind of compass, not one that points north, but one that points inward. It reminds you that no matter how vast the cosmos, no matter how many galaxies spin or how many light years stretch into darkness, your reality begins from where you are, from what you feel, from what you notice. You're not at the center of the universe, but you are at the center of this experience, and that, in its own quiet way, is more meaningful than any galactic throne, because it's not theoretical, it's not abstract, it's lived, right now, in this breath, in this thought, in this gentle unfolding of time. So what does it mean to be conscious in a centerless universe? It means you carry your center with you. It means that every moment you spend in stillness, in reflection, in attention, is a moment where the cosmos becomes personal, not smaller, but closer, not rewritten, but felt. And in that feeling, something powerful happens. You begin to sense the deep truth that even though you're not the center of everything, everything still passes through you. Every sound you hear, every light you see, every thought you have, they all arrive in your field of awareness like ripples meeting in a single pond. The pond is not the origin of the ripples, but it is where they are experienced, where they come together, where they become real. You are that pond. You are the space where reality gathers itself into sensation. And if that feels beautiful, it's because it is. The universe may not place you at its center, but it did, somehow, rise to you, to your ability to notice, to reflect, to care. And in this noticing, this being here, you've created something that doesn't need a location on a cosmic map. a moment, a center, a quiet place where the universe comes home to itself just for a while. For most of human history, it was assumed, quietly, almost unquestioningly, that the universe would slow down. After all, when things expand, they tend to lose momentum. A ball tossed upward will pause and fall. A firework climbs, spreads, then fades. Even the waves that reach the shore carry less energy than when they began. Expansion, by its nature, seemed destined to settle, and for a time, astronomers thought the same must be true for the universe. After the Big Bang, space had expanded rapidly, but gravity, patient, invisible, always pulling, would surely resist that growth. Over billions of years, it would slow the galaxy's flight. Perhaps, given enough mass, it might even reverse the course of things, collapsing everything back inward in a grand, fiery reunion. But then, in the late 1990s, something happened. Something quiet but revolutionary. Two teams of scientists, working on opposite sides of the world using different instruments, measured distant supernovae, ancient stellar explosions whose light had taken billions of years to reach us. These particular supernovae were used as cosmic mile markers. Because of their predictable brightness, they allowed astronomers to measure how far away they were and how fast they were moving. And what they found, independently and nearly simultaneously, was that these faraway supernovae weren't just distant, they were too distant, too dim, too stretched, as if they had moved farther than expected, as if the space between us and them had grown faster than it should have, as if something had changed. The universe wasn't just expanding, it was expanding faster. Somehow, over time, the expansion of space had begun to accelerate, not slow. It was like throwing a ball into the air and watching it pick up speed instead of fall. Like watching a ripple in a pond grow wider, not calmer. It defied the expected rhythm. It contradicted the gravity we thought was steering the dance. To explain this, scientists introduced a new idea. A placeholder, really. A name for an unknown presence. They called it dark energy, a term that sounds mysterious because it is. It's not dark in colour, nor is it really energy in the classical sense. It's simply what we call whatever is pushing the universe apart. And make no mistake, it is pushing. Not like a wind, not like a shove, more like a gentle stretching of space itself. Quiet, consistent, unrelenting. Imagine a thread being pulled between your fingers, slowly, silently. So gradually you almost don't feel it. But over time the thread lengthens, not because the ends are moving quickly, but because the space between them is quietly giving way. That's the image to hold in your mind, a cosmos not tearing itself apart with drama, but softly loosening its grip. The cause of dark energy remains elusive. Is it a property of space itself? Is it something new in physics, something we have yet to see clearly? Is it constant, or does it change over time? We don't know. But we do know it exists, or at least that its effects are written across the sky, in every red-shifted galaxy, in every ancient flicker of distant light. And so, the story of the universe changed. Not with a bang this time, but with a whisper. We used to think the cosmos had a rhythm of rise and fall, of expansion and rest. Now we see that it has chosen a different rhythm, one of unfolding, ever faster, ever wider. Not a drumbeat, but a breath that never ends. Not a circle, but a spiral, expanding into something we cannot yet imagine. And here's the gentle paradox. The thing that is doing the expanding, the thing that is speeding up, is not matter, not light, not even gravity. It's space itself, the very fabric that holds everything, now pulling itself apart at an accelerating pace. And that pace is subtle. Right now, the effect of dark energy is small compared to the gravitational bonds that hold galaxies together. But it's growing. With each passing eon, it becomes more pronounced, more present, more undeniable. You could say that even nothingness has a rhythm, and what a rhythm it is, Not fast, not loud, but steady. Space itself, expanding quietly, carrying galaxies farther and farther from one another, stretching light, softening its colour, fading it into red, and then to darkness. A slow drift, not toward chaos but toward stillness. It's not an ending, not yet, but it is a change in tempo, a shift in the melody of creation, where once the cosmos expanded because of an initial burst, now it expands because something deeper, something quieter, compels it to. And you, sitting in this moment, are part of that rhythm. The atoms in your body are drifting slightly farther apart than they were 1 billion years ago. The galaxies you see in the sky are moving ever so gently away from each other, and the stars themselves, though brilliant and blazing, are riding a current that no gravity can halt. This isn't something to fear. It is not a crash or a break. It is more like a breath slowly drawn, a tide that cannot be reversed, and in that quiet motion, something beautiful remains. A sense that even in the vastest emptiness, something is happening. Something real. Something profound. The universe changed its mind, or perhaps it revealed what was always true. That it is not only a story of gravity and light, but of emptiness that isn't empty. Of silence that hums with direction. Of space that stretches, not because it must, but because it can. And maybe, in the soft pull of dark energy, we find a metaphor for something more personal. That even the parts of life that feel still are moving. That even quiet things change. That expansion is not always loud or obvious. Sometimes it is invisible. Sometimes it is silent, but it is always there, pulling gently, thread by thread. There is a kind of elegance to gravity. It draws things inward, holds galaxies together, binds planets to stars and stars to orbits and orbits to time. It is the glue of the cosmos, soft, persistent and subtle. For much of the universe's history, gravity had the upper hand. Even as space expanded, gravity worked quietly to slow that expansion, to form structure, to coax particles into stars, into warmth, into light. But then came dark energy, unseen, unexplained, but undeniable, not pushing things like a hand would, but gently amplifying the space between. Slowly, steadily, the scales began to shift, and with that shift came the possibility of an ending that no one had imagined before. Not in fire, not in collision, not in collapse, but in separation. This possibility has a name. It's called the Big Rip. Imagine this. The expansion of the universe continues to accelerate. Not linearly, not gently, but exponentially. Over time, the force of dark energy becomes more powerful than the gravity that holds galaxies together. Later, more powerful than the forces that bind stars in their systems. Then stronger than the forces that hold planets in orbit, or molecules together, or atoms in place. One by one, the connections unravel. First, galaxies would drift apart, slipping beyond each other's reach, until the night sky becomes increasingly quiet and dim. Then, within each galaxy, star systems would begin to loosen. Planets would escape their stars. Moons would float away. Even the stars themselves might not be safe. If dark energy continues to grow, it could overcome the nuclear bonds that give stars their shape and stability. Eventually, even the matter inside atoms could be pulled apart, not in a bang, but in a whisper. The timing of such a fate, if it were to happen, is not close. Estimates suggest that if the Big Rip were our cosmic destination, it would occur tens of billions of years in the future, far beyond the lifetime of any current star, and certainly long past the stretch of time our species can imagine inhabiting. But still, the idea lingers. A universe where everything that once held together slowly lets go. The poetry of it is hard to ignore. It would be an ending written not in violence, but in withdrawal. A quiet dissolving of bonds. Not the shout of a closing door, but the creak of one that never stops opening. And yet, there is something deeply human in the way we imagine endings. We often picture them as dramatic, final, absolute. But nature, as it turns out, is often more subtle. It prefers slow transitions, long arcs, processes that take their time, and if the big rip ever comes, it won't arrive all at once. It will unfold over billions of years, so slowly that no single day will seem different from the last, until, finally, nothing is, near enough to touch. There's a quiet sadness in this vision, a loneliness, but also strangely, a kind of peace, because this unravelling, if it happens, will not undo what the universe has been. It won't erase the beauty that came before it. The stars, the galaxies, the lives, the thoughts. All of that will have happened. All of that will have been real. The universe will not end with a rejection of meaning, but with a memory of having once held hands. Even now you can feel that memory echoing in the bonds that hold your body together, in the warmth of the sun that fuels your life, in the starlight that reaches you from across time. All of it is connected. All of it is held, at least for now. And perhaps that's what makes it beautiful. That everything you've ever loved, everything you've ever known, exists because of togetherness, of gravity's patience, of space's quiet unfolding. And that, should the day come when those bonds are undone, they will not vanish without a trace. They will have left behind the only legacy that truly matters, the experience of having been. Sometimes, the universe teaches us through silence, through stillness, through loss. Not as punishment, but as part of the rhythm, like leaves falling in autumn, like shadows growing long before the dusk. And if everything that once held hands must someday let go, that doesn't mean the holding wasn't worth it. On the contrary, it makes it all the more precious. So let yourself imagine that far-off day, not as a tragedy, but as a final exhale, a soft sigh at the end of a long story, a slow drift into stillness. And as you imagine it, remember that you are here now, that you are still held, that you are still connected to people, to stardust, to time. Even if the universe is fated to let go, you are part of the moment when it still holds. You're inside the era of structure, of warmth, of life. You are part of the moment before the silence, and that moment, this moment, is enough. Everything that once held hands is still holding. And maybe that's the soft lesson hidden in the dark folds of cosmic expansion. That letting go is not the opposite of love. It is in the end the shape it sometimes takes. There's something comforting about the idea of an ending. Even when it's distant, even when it's abstract, an ending implies closure, a soft folding of the story, a chance to understand the shape of the journey by its final note. But what if the universe offers no such comfort? What if it doesn't end in a bang or a rip, or even a gentle sleep? What if it simply continues, not toward a climax, but into something quieter, colder, and more diffuse? This possibility is not as dramatic as the big rip. It doesn't involve galaxies being torn apart or atoms unravelling. But in a way, it is more haunting. It's the idea that the universe will never end in the way we understand endings. It will just keep going, slowly, patiently, unhurriedly, toward a state where nothing changes anymore. Not because there is nothing left, but because everything has spread so far, cooled so much, and unfolded so completely that there is no structure left to change. This state is often called heat death, or maximum entropy. Entropy is a word that feels cold, mathematical, but in essence it means disorder, or more precisely, the number of ways things can be arranged. High entropy means more spread out, more even, more indistinct. And the second law of thermodynamics, quiet and relentless, tells us that entropy tends to increase. It's not a law of decay, but of dispersion, of energy moving from where it is concentrated to where it is not. Right now, the universe is filled with energy gradients, hot stars and cold space, galaxies dense with matter and voids almost empty, differences, clusters, shapes. These are the conditions that make movement possible, that allow work to be done, that allow life to exist. But over trillions of years, those gradients may fade. Stars will burn out, matter will clump into black holes, or drift into vast cold distances. Light will redshift into wavelengths too long to be meaningful. Heat will spread evenly, gently, until there is no hot or cold, just everything, everywhere, the same. In that universe, nothing would happen. Not because something stopped it, but because there would be no contrast, no difference to drive reactions, no imbalance to correct, no rhythm to sustain, and yet, it's not an ending, it is an unfolding. Imagine a sheet of paper. You fold it into shapes, a crane, a flower, a boat. Each fold adds complexity, adds direction. But eventually, if you were to slowly unfold it, smoothing out each crease, softening every edge, you'd return to something plain, flat, still. The paper isn't gone, the material hasn't disappeared, but its potential to form new shapes, at least in this analogy, has reached its quiet conclusion. The universe may do the same. There may be no edge to reach, no wall to strike, no final shutter of the lights, just time passing, structures fading, temperature balancing, and through it all, the quiet continuation of existence, not as activity, but as stillness. It's tempting to call this bleak. But is it? Maybe not, because this ending is not violent, it is not cruel, it does not erase what came before. The stars that lived, the planets that spun, the beings that thought and dreamed and felt, all of that happened. It left an imprint, not in the cold hydrogen clouds of the future, but in the story itself, in the becoming, in the fact that the universe for a time knew how to shine. And what an astonishing thing that is. A cosmos that started with near-perfect symmetry, that could have remained smooth and silent, instead became lumpy, uneven, vibrant. It made stars. It made life. It made questions. It built structures that wondered if they had meaning. And even if it returns to stillness, the journey in between will have mattered. There's also something deeply human in this kind of story. You are, after all, made of gradients, of differences, of rhythms, warm and cold, awake and asleep, thought and breath and heartbeats. And you too will unfold, not all at once, not suddenly, but over time. The energy that animates you will one day return to the quiet. Your atoms will drift, your warmth will fade. But that's not erasure, it's transformation, just like the universe. You don't need to fear a cosmos that never ends. You're part of it. You're woven from the same quiet rules. And if everything someday becomes still, then you were one of the things that stirred. So perhaps the point isn't to avoid the stillness. Perhaps the point is to feel deeply what it means to exist before it arrives. To cherish the structure, the light, the dance of complexity while it lasts. To look up at the night sky and know, not just in theory, but in feeling, that this moment, right now, is the universe at its most awake. You are part of that wakefulness, part of that shimmering complexity, part of what it means to become, even as everything slowly unfolds into silence. The universe may have no edge, it may have no grand finale, but it has you now, in this quiet moment of thought, in this tiny awareness glowing in the vastness. And that's not nothing, that's everything. Imagine, just for a moment, that space is not a void, not an emptiness, but a fabric, not made of cotton or silk, but of something quieter, geometry, possibility, rhythm. Imagine that everything you see, stars, galaxies, clouds of dust, the glowing edges of cosmic radiation, are not scattered randomly, but are threads woven into this great cloth, And now imagine, just for a moment longer, that you are a part of that weaving, not hovering above it, not separate from it, but a ripple within it, a wrinkle in its surface. A small shimmering thread pulled tight for a while, before relaxing back into stillness. This is not metaphor for comfort, it's physics. The universe, as we understand it, is not expanding into anything, it is expanding from within itself. Every point in space is getting farther from every other point, not because of motion through space, but because space itself is stretching. It's not that galaxies are racing away from us like sparks from a firecracker, it's that the fabric between us and them is lengthening, like elastic slowly being pulled, like an ancient cloth breathing out. And this means something quietly profound. There is no edge, no centre, no privileged position from which it all began. The expansion happens everywhere, equally. It is democratic, it is distributed, it is, in a way, inclusive. You're not at the centre of the universe, but no one is. And yet somehow, you're exactly where the expansion is unfolding, because it unfolds at every point, including you. So the metaphor deepens. If the universe is a fabric, then you, your body, your thoughts, your breath, are a temporary arrangement of that fabric. A knot in the weave, a slight twist in the pattern that for a brief moment notices itself. You're not separate from space. You're made of space. You're space that has cooled and clumped and complicated itself into awareness, and you are moving with it. You're not riding on top of the expanding cloth like a passenger on a train. You're part of the train, part of the track, part of the momentum. Every cell in your body, every photon in your eye, every thought in your head is riding that gentle, quiet current of expansion, not flying away from a centre but stretching outward, along with the very frame of reality. You're not above the fabric, you're a feature of it, a note in the song, a flicker in the thread. And this realization, if you let it in slowly, is not unsettling, it is grounding. It means you don't have to search for your place in the universe. You are already woven into it. You belong, not by permission, but by nature. You are an arrangement of the same cloth that curves light and bends gravity and sings the stars into being. You're not a visitor. You are home. Think about what that means for your sense of scale. When you look up at the stars, it can be easy to feel small, to feel lost in a sea of distances and coldness and silence. But those distances are not signs of your insignificance. They are the stretch marks of a fabric that includes you. They are the echoes of a geometry that holds you, just as it holds the galaxies. You're not watching from the outside. You are inside the loom, and the loom is moving, but not with haste, not with urgency. It is slow, gentle, expanding with a grace so smooth that we can only notice it over billions of years. The galaxies are not being hurled, they're drifting. The light is not racing, it is stretching. You too are stretching, if not in body, then in time. Your presence here, your awareness of this moment, is part of that great expansion. You're not a pause in the fabric. You're a fold, a shape, a tension, briefly held and then released. There is something soft in that idea, something restful, because it means that you don't have to strive to be central. You don't have to locate yourself on a cosmic map and wonder where you belong. You're already centered, not geographically, but existentially. Your experience, your noticing, your being, these are the places where the universe folds in on itself and says, here for a moment is attention. You are not in space that knows it exists, a blink of woven light. And that knowledge, fragile though it may seem, is real. You are part of the fabric, not draped over it, not walking across it, not lost within it, of it, fully and completely. Your thoughts are ripples, your breath is motion, your life is a gentle rearrangement of particles that were once elsewhere, and will be elsewhere again, but that for now have chosen this shape. And the fabric accepts that. It doesn't ask for permanence, it doesn't require certainty, it simply flows, and in that flow you are carried, not toward a destination, but into a state of being part of the weave, being part of the stretch, being part of the story. So when you close your eyes tonight and feel yourself resting, remember, you're not falling out of the world, you're folding into it. You're becoming once again indistinguishable from the fabric. You are letting the knot loosen. You are drifting with the threads, and the universe continues to stretch, not away from you, not towards something else, but around you, with you, through you. You're not a bystander, you're the ripple, you're the thread. In a universe without a center, without edges or borders, the idea of arriving takes on a different meaning. There is no final destination marked with a flag, no point of origin waiting to be returned to, no definitive line between here and there, then and now. And yet, somehow, you are always arriving, with each breath, with each moment that unfolds, with each quiet realization that you are here. The universe stretches, not away from something, not towards something, but through itself, and so do you. Your life is not a straight road with a beginning and an end. It is more like a spiral, unfurling as it moves, constantly becoming, never quite done. Even now in stillness you are changing, expanding, not in size but in experience, in awareness, in depth. You are not a fixed point, you are a process, a continuous flow of becoming. Every cell in your body replaces itself over time. Every memory you carry shifts with recollection. Every perspective you hold is touched by the quiet erosion of time. You're always in motion, not the frantic movement of trying to get somewhere, but the soft unfolding of someone who is always gently arriving. The universe has no center, but you do, not in space, not in coordinates, but in presence. Right now, as you listen, as your mind floats through these words, you are centered. This moment is your moment. The sounds around you, the air in your lungs, the gentle background of your thoughts, all of it converges here, not on a map, not in a galaxy, but in awareness, in this fragile yet undeniable phenomenon of noticing. And if you carry that idea gently, it becomes something restful. It means you don't have to search for meaning in distant stars. You don't have to earn your place in the cosmos. You are the place already. You are the center of your perception, the fulcrum of your sensations, the quiet point through which the universe filters and finds expression. That doesn't make you the center of the universe, but it does make you the center of this, of now, of experience, and that is enough. Too often we are taught to chase, to strive, to reach, as if value lies somewhere just beyond our grasp, as if we are meant to arrive, finally, at a better version of ourselves, or a clearer understanding, or a higher truth. But the universe doesn't chase anything. It expands because that is what it does. It unfolds not to achieve something, but because unfolding is its nature. And maybe you too don't need to strive so hard to be more than you are. Maybe being here is enough. Maybe that's all the center needs to be, a place of being, a moment of knowing, a presence that doesn't need to prove itself. This is not complacency. This is not giving up. This is something more radical. It is trust. Trust that you are already within the fabric, already inside the rhythm, already participating in the great pattern, just by existing. Because the center isn't out there. It's not a point in the heavens or a number in an equation. It is the quiet flame of consciousness, the ever-arriving now, the awareness that says, I am here, I am seeing, I am part of this. And there's something beautifully democratic in that idea, because it's true for everyone. No matter who you are, or where you are, or what you believe, you're always at the center of your experience. Every person, every creature, Every flicker of awareness, no matter how brief, holds a world within it. A reality shaped not by distance or direction, but by presence. The stars above you, light years away, are not more central than you are. The galaxies spinning across the void are not more real. They're grand, yes, they're ancient, but they are not closer to the truth. They are part of the same unfolding, part of the same motion. They shine, and you feel. They burn, and you think. They drift, and you notice. All of it is participation. All of it is centeredness in motion. And so maybe the question is not, where is the center? Maybe the question is, where is your attention? Because that is where your universe takes shape. Not in the stars you can't reach, but in the breath you can feel. Not in the distance, but in the here. Not in the end, but in the act of becoming. You're always arriving. Every morning you wake, every moment you pause, every time you breathe without rushing. These are arrivals, not dramatic, not final, but real. They are the gentle anchors that remind you are already inside the moment. You don't have to search for the edge of the universe to find your place in it. You are already placed. You are already here. And so is everything else, still stretching, still unfolding, still becoming. So let yourself arrive, fully, softly, without needing to rush to the next step. Let the center be not a destination, but a feeling, a stillness, a knowing that wherever you are, you belong, that your awareness is enough, that your experience matters, not because of where you are in space, but because you are here in time, right now, right here, and that, in a universe without a center, may be the closest thing we'll ever have to one. By now you've drifted alongside galaxies, expanded with the fabric of space, and glided softly through something ancient, something far older and vaster than words can reach. Your journey has not been through miles, but through quiet thought, through the slow opening of understanding. And perhaps now, as your breath evens and your body begins to sink into calm, it's no longer time to seek more answers, but to rest gently in what you already sense. Let go for a little while of the need to comprehend everything. You don't have to grasp every fact or remember every image. The universe was never a riddle to be solved. It was always an invitation to simply be within it, to exist not as a questioner, but as a note in its endless chord, a shimmer, a breath between stars. So here you are, a small thread woven into the vast tapestry. The universe is immense, far beyond any edge your mind could hold. It stretches beyond the reach of the light, beyond the boundaries of time itself. It has no walls, no ceiling, no button that marks its start or end. It only continues, endlessly unfolding, like a quiet exhale that never needed to stop, like a song that forgets to end its verse, and still, somehow, it feels like it belongs to you. Not because you own it, but because you belong to it. This still, centerless expanse, the one that spins galaxies and hums between constellations, made you. Not through plans or intent, but through the generous chance of existence, through openness, through the simple willingness of matter and energy to try, again and again until thought emerged, blinked awake, and whispered, "What is this?" You are part of that whisper. You are part of that awakening. And now, in the hush of night, you can rest in that knowing. Let the edges of thought soften. Let the questions dissolve into a quiet hum. You do not need to solve the stars. You do not need to tame time. The cosmos will continue without your grasp. The galaxies will drift. The fabric will stretch, slowly, patiently, endlessly, without asking for your control. You're not falling. You're floating. Floating in something gentle, something vast and kind. You're held by it, not lost in it. You're carried, not forgotten. Every atom in you is obeying the same quiet laws that cradle the stars. The same forces that shape the light also shape your breath. There is no border between you and it. There is no outside. The universe has no center. And yet, you are precisely where you need to be. You are a single thread, but not alone. Around you, the fabric continues, woven with other threads, other glimmers of awareness, all born of the same ancient light. You're not the pattern entire, but you are part of it. And that, in itself, is everything. So sleep, not as an escape, but as a return. Return to the rhythm that once shaped you. Return to the quiet pulse that holds all things together. Return to the thought that you don't need every answer, because sometimes questions are their own lullaby. Let science blur into music. Let knowledge become warmth. Let what you've heard tonight sink deep, not into your mind, but into your being. You're not outside the universe looking in. You're inside it, always. You don't have to find the thread. You are the thread. You don't have to search for the center. You are the center, here and now, beneath this quiet sky. And when you finally let go, when your thoughts melt into stillness, you aren't leaving the cosmos behind. You're returning to it, folding softly back into the fabric, resting in the same vastness that carries every star, every silence, every dream. So float, little thread. Float gently. The universe is immense, but it is not cruel. It is silent, but never empty. It is strange, but it welcomes you. And right now, it holds you, not apart from itself, but deeply within. You're drifting in something that needs no name, something that needs no center to cradle you, only stillness, only now, only sleep.